Mike, if we can talk about Invoke Capital now, moving on from autonomy in your early years. You launched Invoke Capital pretty quickly after you sold autonomy in 2012. So what was the urgency? What was the reason you got it out there so quickly?
Well, when you go around the UK, you see amazing bits of technology. So people often think technology comes from the West Coast. If I go to the West Coast, often the head of engineering is a Brit. Okay. So our science base and our ideas are wonderful in the UK, but what we haven't had is a mechanism to turn those into companies. And because of that, there aren't lots of people running around that know how to do that. There aren't technology marketing experts or whatever. And so what we realized was, my team and I had done this for many years. We've made lots of mistakes. And what we could do is not only bring money to people with amazing technology ideas, but we could make sure they made new mistakes that weren't the ones that we know how to make. And so we realised that there was a special situation in the UK, and what we were able to do is use our knowledge as well as the capital to actually take these things forward. Why, if you're a 24-year-old entrepreneur and you've got an amazing piece of technology, do you need to know how to build a sales force the hard way? Why not just have someone come in and tell you how that's done? That's a solved problem. So it's a great opportunity because the science base is so strong. There are so many amazing things going on here. And we raised our billion in about 2 weeks. And now I get to go off and do these things. And it's wonderful because I do all the fun bits without all the tedious admin bits. So really good.
Yeah, fantastic. But you were very passionate about it being not just a normal VC PE firm, private equity firm. So how, in its essence, is it different? Is it the operational bit that you were just talking about there and the value add?
Well, first of all, normally VC firms, a generalisation, not always true, PE firms are financial people. So the first thing that's very important is to bring in people that actually know how to run a business and operational people. That's a massive plus. Very, very few actually have any scientific or technology background. So, you know, understanding the risks you take in developing products and things like that. So that's the first big difference. We are operational technology people who have all done it before. The second thing is that the way that VC firms and PE firms, so you've defined two things there. So a VC firm does this and a PE firm does that, and then a startup one does this and a mezzanine one does that, and all this sort of stuff. That's all defined by the financial industry. It's got nothing to do with how business should operate. So I wanted to be in a situation where I just do the right thing for the business. So we are happy to invest in a scientist sitting at a lab. We are happy to put 500 million into a company and do anything in between, because the journey of a technology from the first idea to a world-class business goes for all of that. If I was a VC, I have to stop at one point. If I'm PE, I can't start until another point. So we kind of just said, we're just going to use technology and know-how and capital, and we're going to rip up the rest of the rules.
Yeah. It makes me want to go and launch my own business just so I can come to you and try and get it funded.
Yeah.
Because you have, as you say, you've got the best. You've got the team that's been proven before with significant exits, and you've got the technology, the operational know-how, business know-how, the team.
But there are disadvantages. We learned an interesting lesson. So I have my wonderful group that have done all these amazing things and transactions and grown these businesses. And we had people coming in, and then after they do their presentation, they'd leave. My lot would all tell me why it wouldn't work. And you know, they were right. Everything they said was bang on. And this happened a few times, and I said to them, so imagine us coming in here those years ago, would you invest in us? And they said, well, no. And I said, so we've got to understand that you've got to allow a little naivety in the process. You've got to allow a little sunlight for the seedling to germinate. Because no, you can't have all the answers at the beginning, and there will always be problems. But the easiest way not to achieve something is to never start it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, although we get a lot of advantages, we also have to deal with some things where, when you've seen it all before, you can sometimes be a bit too easy to see the problems.
How have you countered that within your teams? Do you force them to see the positives sometimes?
Yes, one of the easiest ways to do it is you just say to them, right, I only want to hear now about why this could be an interesting idea.
Brilliant.
And that allows everyone to discuss it and build up the idea. You still have to have the what are all the problems going to be conversation, but by then you've understood why you might want to do this.
Right.
So you kind of be a little sort of paradoxical, but you kind of have to separate it out.
Brilliant. So it's a little bit like Edward de Bono's 6 thinking hats. You put on the various hats of thinking, and you play them out. But your decision to invest more broadly into a portfolio, was that an important sort of development for you versus focusing on being the boss of one company?
Well, no, I get, it's like, rather than, I don't know, playing with one beautiful car, you got 10 to play with. So, no, I get to do all the fun stuff. One day I'm in with the genetics people, another day I'm with artificial intelligence people. Yeah. And, at the end of the day, the entrepreneurs are the ones that are doing the real magic. Yeah. We're just making sure they make those new mistakes.
Yeah, brilliant. How's that transition been, though, from being the CEO to almost nurturing these CEOs and businesses? Because I know you don't run your portfolio autocratically, so how's that transition been? I mean,
well, you have to explain why. So the problem you've got is when you've done it before, it's very obvious to you. One of the things that sometimes people will come in with is that they'll have an idea of how business works. But the problem is most of those ideas come from GE Capital or from Ford, and they're not relevant in a tiny little company. So, for example, a CEO might say to you, I really need to do this because it's really important. And you say, well, actually, in a company this size, you don't. And as long as you get a good relationship with the entrepreneur and they start to listen, pretty soon they start to value what you're saying. And then occasionally they'll decide that you're wrong, and you let them run with it. And, they either fall over and learn something, or you learn something, one of the two.
But therein lies the difference, I think, because you mentioned earlier about you've got to have a CEO that allows people to fail. And you just said that you would allow that, and that takes that's a great leadership trait, tick, I think, Mike.
Well, you tell you, if you've got a good person, after they fail, you tend to end up with a slightly better one.
Right, so. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So the first 3 years of autonomy, Invoke Capital is now 3 years old. How has it been? You always talk about, you've got to constantly reinvent the business plan and the plan. Have you had to be agile? How's it been going?
Well, we've been very lucky. We've had, we've done the sort of Stock Aitken and Waterman of the hits. We did one called Dark Trace, which is machine intelligence and cybersecurity. That started in August 2013. That's growing at 600% and is just getting valued at 400 million. Nice. Now, actually, that's growth I've never seen in my career before, so I'm learning new things as well.
Yeah,
but that's a really nice one. We've got another
congratulations for that.
Yeah, another one which is in genetic testing to do with things like treating cancer, and that's now gone from treating 0 over 2 years to treating 25,000 patients. And not only is that one a great business, but it's also really nice to think that you're doing something that actually can have such an impact. And it's a new area for me, so I've learned a lot in doing that. Then you have ones which are a little bit more predictable. So we've got one which is about artificial intelligence replacing, things like very low-level law jobs where people are just turning handles and doing that sort of stuff. Not perhaps as exciting as the first two, but a good solid business. And then we get to play with all these amazing things like augmented reality and virtual reality and machine vision and things like that. And that's an interesting one because there's no business there at the moment. You just see amazing technologies, but you just know this stuff's going to change the world. So you have to analyse it on that basis.
No wonder you're still continuing to work despite your wealth. Why wouldn't you be? You're changing the world. You're making the world a better place, and you're having a lot of fun as you're doing it.
Well, you see, the problem is, I could not have conceived when I started of what technology would allow now. That chip that you might use to make a synthesizer back when I started, it was the most powerful chip on the planet. You can now do that in a free app on an iPhone.
Right.
So what that means is that the possibilities are amazing, and I really need to lose some weight to make sure I live long enough to see what all of this becomes.
So do I.